Let nothing disturb you, nothing affright you. All things will pass, but God changes not. Patient endurance brings you to victory. Once you have God, you'll want nothing more. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. Let nothing disturb you, nothing affright you. All things will pass, but God changes not. Patient endurance brings you to victory. Once you have God, you'll want nothing more. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. Let nothing disturb you, nothing affright you. All things will pass, but God changes not. Patient endurance brings you to victory. Once you have God, you'll want nothing more. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. Let nothing disturb you, nothing affright you. All things will pass, but God changes not. Patient endurance brings you to victory. Once you have God, you'll want nothing more. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. God alone, God alone, God alone's all we ever need. Let's meditate until the ceremony begins in a few minutes.
Yeah, just a couple of minutes because people will be tuning in around the world. Please rise. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, beloved friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda, we humbly bow to you all. O Divine Mother, bless and protect our beloved friend, Swami Kriyananda, as he makes his transition from this world of limitation into thy beautiful, expansive world, free from the body, free from all disease. Let him feel our love and our friendship, and help us be open to feel the same from him. Om. Peace. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you all for coming today. It's a good time to be together. We'll, instead of our regular service, obviously this morning will be a memorial for Swamiji. And I don't think there's a person in this room or a person whose life has even been touched in a very peripheral way that has not drawn some great blessing from Swamiji. And what we'll do this morning is we'll do the ceremony that he wrote, deriving from Master Ceremony, When a Soul Passes. We'll have some music and some sharing. We have some pictures one picture on the altar, and a recent picture of him. The picture on the altar is his body lying in the temple in Assisi that we received this morning. And we'll have rose petals brought up to the altar. And at the end, people can come up and offer a few rose petals and look at the pictures. We'll have a more expanded memorial service for him on his birthday, May 19th, Sunday. And Jyotish and I will be leaving this afternoon to go to Sacramento and fly out to Italy to be part of the memorial services there. So, we'll let you know more about those details as time goes on. But for now, let's begin by listening to one of Swami's great gifts, the music that he brought to us.
Written by Swami Kriyananda. I live without fear, life is a dream, thy will, and home is a green hill.
Summer fade and winter All that I endures wonder or scorn. Birth, life, and death are one, veils of thy love. Thy will, thy will, thy will alone. All that I've done is thine. All that I've done.
We'll do one chant and then meditate together. Come Let's meditate together, and especially during this meditation, visualize and think of Swamiji. Send him your love and gratitude for the part that he played in your life. And visualize Master and our line of gurus, along with Divine Mother, welcoming him into the astral world to be with them for eternity. remarkable light has passed out of the world, and its like will not be seen again during our lifetimes. To understand Swamiji's life, it has to be picked up by the pivotal point in his life, which was meeting Master and the years of discipleship that he spent with him. We've had a chance through different means, movies and other means, especially this last year, to see the scope of Swamiji's life a little more clearly. And when I say that a great light has passed out of the world, the emanating source of that light has been moved on into the astral plane, but all that he has left behind is filled with that light. The music that we heard this morning, the 450 or so pieces of music, is so filled with vibration, filled with love and friendship and deep meaning. Swamiji has said occasionally that if you want to know me, listen to my music. And the 150 books or so that he wrote, filled with wisdom, and there is no more lucid writer to explain the deep meaning of the scriptures. In a sense, Swamiji completed the mission of taking these subtle truths and putting them into words that we could all understand, because it wasn't that he simplified them, he clarified them and presented them in a clear form that we could read and understand. And in a sense, that mission ended also when he put the last piece in place earlier this year, which was the scripture of Patanjali. He'd written all of the other scriptures, or taken Master's teachings is the better way to explain that. He'd taken all of those scriptures and Master's explanations and made them clear and accessible for us. But that last piece really was in place. When we last saw him, which was in India, not very long, a couple of months ago, he was wondering what his next step would be, because his life was so absolutely defined by his discipleship and his service to Master. It's interesting because as his life unfolded, each new piece seemed to be a new and unexpected adventure. And in fact, right up to the very, very end, we spoke with Narayani this morning by Skype, and she mentioned that it was so like Swamiji to make even the very end a surprise and a challenge, and yet fraught with deep, deep meaning for us. And so each episode of his life, taken alone, seemed a little bit odd. But when you see it in context, in the whole, it was as if a brilliant playwright, in fact a very brilliant playwright, wrote the script for his life. And the early childhood illnesses that he had, the family that he had, being born, being almost a citizen of no country, but a citizen of the world, which is what his life was expressed, how it was expressed as an adult. But seeing that early life and then the illnesses that allowed him to go and acquire language, acquire new scope, the adolescent and early young manhood, deep, almost desperate search for truth, and then the discovery. He's often talked in these last 2 or 3 years especially of the walk along the beach in North Carolina, or South Carolina, where it was as if the Vedic truths that his soul knew were revealed finally to the searching, the eager, desperate need to know truth that his mental state had arrived at by that time in the maturing process. And it was really a very short time after that Master came to him in the form of the autobiography, put that soul call out so strongly that Swamiji took the next bus across the country and met Master, and the pivotal words in his whole existence, his whole incarnation, were, "I want to be your disciple." That then formed the remainder of his life, obviously his being with Master. But he has said that he was the person who asked the most questions of Master, and Master was eager to answer those questions and to explain these truths to him. And of course, Master told him that your mission is to lecture, to write, and to edit. As Swamiji said, Master did not at that time say also to start communities, because it would have been odd in the context of his early years and still the connection with SRF. But that obviously was part of Swamiji's mission. But from that point on, I want to be your disciple, the rest of his life is one long, continuous, incredible, amazing expression of that desire. All of the books were not, in a sense, Swami's books. They were Master's books, written by Swami. Swami said many years ago to us, he said, "For many years I prayed that I wanted every thought that I had to be guided by Master." And he said, "I realize that that's not enough. Now I want every feeling to be guided by Master. Everything I do, I say, I think, I want that to be guided by Master." And then a while later, a few years later, he said very casually, "I don't know where Kriyananda ends and Master begins. It all seems one." And he looked at his life and he said, "That isn't really my life. Kriyananda is an event for which I am responsible, but it's Divine Mother's life, it's Master's life, and it is only in that sense that it takes on meaning." And the expression of that incredible lifelong focus on truth, on explaining truth, but then especially all through his life, but especially in his latter years, the intellectual part of his mission seemed to be more or less over and waning a little bit, even though he had a few more projects. But anyone who has heard him in the last few years feels that the talks have transcended talks, they've transcended concepts. They're just vibrationally a carrier wave for deep love, deep devotion, deep friendship, love for God, love for Master, but also a deep, incredible friendship and caring and compassion and impersonal, well, expressed personally, love for everyone who touched his path. The last substantive email we got from him was a couple of days ago, and I won't personalize it, but there's someone who has had a connection with Swamiji, and it's been a deepish connection, but only occasional. It's not a resident of any of the Ananda communities. It's someone who is really barely touched on this path even. And Swamiji wrote just 2 days ago to Devi and me saying, can you help take care of her? Can you see that she has a place? Maybe she could come and stay at Ananda and be here. But to the very last ounce of his strength, his energy was to be a channel of divine love and divine friendship to everyone who touched his path. And it has become more and more that expression. Master said that of all the 8 qualities of God, Master said, I especially manifest 3 of them: love and bliss and wisdom. And certainly the same can be said of Swamiji: love and bliss and wisdom. That great joy, that bliss, many, many times in the last year or 2, he would say, not in big public ways, but more quietly, he would say, sometimes I feel so much bliss I can hardly stand it. And that was the state of his consciousness, the vibration of his consciousness, especially in these last years. His passing was, again, in many, many ways, a gift to us all. It was, in a sense, Master's gift to him, too, because it would have been a burden, a terrible burden, one that Swami would have accepted with equanimity, but would not have enjoyed a long, painful, lingering passing where he would be bedridden or incapable of doing anything or serving. But that was not what happened. Master took him out quite quickly. He'd been increasingly since India, since about a month and a half ago, he'd been increasingly tired. It was the trip to Calcutta and then Mumbai and then back to Pune was very difficult for his body. And then soon after that, he had to make the trip to Italy. And so he's had 4 major trips in the last month and a half. And that tired his body. And we have seen so often a rhythm where he's been very tired and his heart has felt very, very tired, but then he recovers. Well, this time, the recovery seemed to be taking a longer time, that he just couldn't seem to get his strength back. And still he was serving in the way that he could. He gave the Easter talk in Assisi and had a celebration, but his heart was tired. And increasingly over the last couple of weeks, and then especially this week, he seemed very pulled back or withdrawn. Nonetheless, he was still doing some things. He went out to dinner with some friends earlier this week. Then last night Italy time, he didn't sleep well, but that too was not an uncommon occurrence, especially lately. And yet he got to sleep somewhere around 2 or 3 in the morning, and he got up this morning and he looked very pale and ashen, but he went and checked the emails again to see. Mainly the emails he receives are people have been asking him for this, for that, for this advice, that advice, this piece of information, that. Basically, what those emails are the question in 100 different ways from 100 different people. Swami, do you remember me? Do you love me? Do you understand that I'm connected to you? And he would graciously take those and write back a few words of encouragement or possibly advice. At any rate, he checked his emails. Then he came to the breakfast table, but he was very pulled back and not saying much at all. And Miriam tried to engage him in a little bit of conversation. Miriam is his nurse, for those of you who don't know her. And he didn't say anything. And then she said, Swamiji, I need to take your blood glucose, to check for the need for insulin, because sometimes when he's so pulled back, it's because the insulin level has been off. And his last word was just like his life. His last word was anything. It's as if he was saying, let God's will be done, anything. And she took the blood glucose, and it was just perfectly normal. And then she was about to go. Narayani noticed that he was really struggling, and she said, Miriam, come back. And by that time, he was having a lot of difficulty breathing. He seemed to have some sort of seizure, but it only lasted 15 seconds or so, but then was having trouble breathing. And so they managed to get him to the bed, and Shurjo was chanting Om in his right ear, and they called Ananda and Kirtani out of meditation, and that's when we got a call on the way over. They were leaving the temple and going over, and all they said at that point was, Swami is having trouble breathing. They're trying to keep his breath coming. Pray for him. We don't know more. And they went over. They got there just about 5 minutes before he took his last breath. But there was really only a period of about 15 or 20 minutes when it was obvious that he was in extreme distress. And so there was not there wasn't suffering, there wasn't lingering. It was as if Master had finished through Swamiji what he had to do in this life. He took his last breath, and everyone has said there was a sense of great, great freedom. Obviously there's sadness, obviously there's loss, but the reality is that his soul is now with Master and with Divine Mother, and there's a great sense of freedom and release from the limitations that he had to struggle with. And so we should keep him deeply in our hearts and minds, especially over these next several days. As Devi mentioned, we'll be leaving this evening to go to Italy, and we'll help with events there and be gone for a week or so. I know Devi has some words to say too.
When we were in India with Swami in January and February, he said, people often ask me how I want to be remembered. And he said, the only way I want people to remember me, he was a good disciple. And of course, for a man of his accomplishments, it says a lot more than for others. And when we were in India, we recorded that video with him that we showed during the leadership seminar, we also recorded another one, which we haven't seen yet, which he talks about how he created Ananda's vision, which will be well worth watching. But in that video, he began talking. He said, the most important qualities of my life, and he just kind of said it in a moment. He said, are dedication, devotion, compassion, kindness, and a complete sense of non-self-importance. And when you look at all that he's accomplished, I think that complete sense of no sense of self-importance is really the key, because anybody who was aware that he was doing anything would have either given up in exhaustion or rested on his laurels long ago. But, you know, I think it's really rare. I don't know of another case in all of the readings, spiritual readings of spiritual teachers, guru, disciple, that a person, a direct disciple of an avatar, has dedicated almost 50 years of his life helping very, very personally thousands of people. As Jyotish was saying, even at the end there, the emails kept coming. And it was, oh, how do you help so many people? How do you understand what thousands of people in different cultures, in different religious backgrounds, in different generational experiences, how do you understand what each one of them needs? And it's because that absolute, not a sense of total sense of non-self-importance. And that's how he could give to us all. Because he wasn't there. All he saw was our needs, our next step. I've shared once, many years ago, at a Kriya initiation that he was leading. He blessed each one of us as part of the initiation. And then afterwards, a few of us were standing around. And he said quietly, "This was a most unusual experience for me, because as each one of you came up to be blessed, I could feel the unique and particular path each one of you would walk to find God." And that's all he worked for. He saw the unique and particular path each one of us were walking. And that's why we felt so ennobled, even with a smile, even with whatever it might be, whatever contact, because he saw how we could find God, and he was leading us there. And I don't want to put it in the past tense, was leading us, because now the question comes for all of us here gathered at Ananda Village, for those watching in different places, different communities, how do we carry on? Where do we go from here? And, you know, of course, the words of Master, when he was asked shortly before he passed, how can we carry on without you? And he said, of course, we know, when I am gone, only love will take my place. And to those who think me near, I will be near. So we have to hold this in our hearts. Some years ago, we had a gathering of Ananda leaders in Assisi. And at that time, Swami Kriyananda, he visited here many years ago in Ananda's early years, one of the great disciples of Swami Shivananda of Rishikesh. He and Swami were supposed to speak at a conference, but then Chidananda became very ill and couldn't make the trip from India. So Swami spoke, but there were many of Chidananda. It was at a retreat center near our center in Assisi. And I'll never forget, it was very poignant and prophetic. Someone, a disciple of Chidananda, asked Swamiji how, because they thought their guru was going to be dying soon, leaving the body soon. And this disciple of Chidananda said to Swami, how was it for you when Master left, when your Guru left? And Swami answered so kindly and so deeply, and he just said, of course it's hard on a human level. How could it not be? Because there's human emotions involved. But he said at the same time, my relationship with Master was never on a personal level. And he's just as much with me now as in the days when I was helping him work on the Gita commentaries or serving him with his guests. So for all of us, of course there'll be human grief. How could there not be? He loved all of us. And we all felt that unique connection with him. Although he said to me once, I've shared this, he said, you know, no one's special to me. I'm not even special to myself. There wasn't any point of self-reference. But, so there will be human grief and loss, and it'll take us time. I know I was just looking around our meditation room and our home, and I think half the things we own, Swami gave to us, little things over the years. But still, the relationship, if we're to really follow in his footsteps, the relationship has to be impersonal and it has to be in God. And in that way, we can continue keeping his presence vibrant in the work he's created, and we can keep having him as an inward guide on our journey to God. Narayani, Esther Tish mentioned, and I'll close with this. Narayani mentioned this morning in the Skype we had with her and Shurjo, and they're struggling with their own hearts now, their own sense of loss. But she said, she said, I really felt that he felt his life work was completed when he saw the movie Finding Happiness. And he saw all the people from all over the world and all that was happening and the spirit. And she said something shifted in him when he saw it. And there was a deep rest, like, I've done my life work now. It wasn't quite time for him to leave the body, so he continued with a few other projects. But we need to live up to that. I remember trying to be strong. I remember when he gave me my name, and he said, I'm going to give you the name Devi, and it means Divine Mother, and you'd better live up to it. And so I see, with the same love that Swami gave to each of us, he believes in us. He believes what we can do, and let's live up to it.
We'll do now the funeral ceremony and then the astral ascension ceremony. These are primarily Master's words and thoughts, but reworked by Swami. Perfect way to end because it's the theme of his life. Lift us from darkness, delusion, and uncertainty into the clear light of thy presence. Ignite our earthliness with the flame of infinity. Inflame our hearts with thy love. Inflame our souls with thy joy. Om. Peace. Amen.
The pilot of life has come to redeem our divine brother, friend, guide, Swamiji. We know that the Redeemer is his friend, come to fetch him away from the land of broken dreams to the highland of life.
We are come together on an occasion of dual meaning, mixed with sadness and with joy. The sadness is ours for the time. The joy is his whose spirit is now risen. And the words of the psalmist in the 23rd Psalm are those of Swamiji now. For he is in the bosom of the Lord, and can truly say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever."
This is I Am Thy Bird of Paradise from Whispers from Eternity. Thine astral airplane of earthly parting came to take my soul away. I wondered through what strange skies I was to soar, and to what lands I was to travel. I asked the mystic pilot of cosmic law whither I was going, and the silent one answered soundlessly, "I am the pilot of life, mistakenly called the terrible death by ignorant earth folk. I am thy brother, uplifter, redeemer, friend, unloader of thy gross burden of body troubles. I come to fetch thee away from the land of thy broken dreams to the highland of light where poisonous vapors of sorrow can never climb. I have mercilessly broken thy cage of flesh attachment that thy soul bird may be free. I have broken thy chains of disease and mental fears. Thy long imprisonment behind the bars of bones made thee unwillingly become used to thy cage. Thou didst want thy freedom always. Now, why art thou fear-filled when thou hast won thy long-craved freedom? O bird of paradise, hop into my plane of omnipresence. Fold thy long fluttering wings and restfully ride with me anywhere, everywhere, in thine ethereal home.
We'll place now a red rose and a white rose in a cross in front of Swamiji's picture. The white rose symbolizes life in God and the purity of expression of the departed soul. The red rose symbolizes the bouquet of love and goodwill of the entire congregation. Please concentrate on the red rose and offer your love and goodwill to Swamiji's soul.
Burning incense symbolizes the earth life of Swamiji, which is gradually disappearing and finding its greater existence in spirit. As the smoke ascends, see it as symbolic of Swami's earthly form dissolving back into spirit. We'll now do the astral ascension ceremony. Please pray
Pray mentally with these words as we read them. Dear friend Swamiji, you who have gone before us have entered a realm which our souls remember, a place of freedom, light, and laughter. Take with you on your journey our blessings and our love. We shall miss you. Our desire is not to hold you back, but only to tell you, friend, we are yours. Our love and our support are ever yours, and our prayers for your highest happiness. We shall meet again. Once more we shall laugh together, rejoice together, and share in the joy of seeking Him. Claim your soul's freedom. Bless all who ever harmed you or ever wished you harm. Give them your love and your prayer for their freedom in God. Friend, cast from your heart all outward attachments. Realize that earthly goals, however shining, are but dreams. God is the only reality. Burn your earthly desires in the fire of wisdom. Burn earthly limitations in the blaze of inner freedom. Burn earthly disappointments in the flame of spreading peace. Burn earthly joys in the bonfire of divine bliss. See your physical form as a discarded garment. Clothed you now are in garments of radiant light. O free soul, see your past actions as scenes in a vast unfolding tapestry. Feast not your gaze wistfully on episodes already finished, but look ahead. New adventures await you, fresh, joyous victories as you advance toward perfect freedom. And what of us, friend, who love you and would be remembered by you? Behold us as threads of light in the tapestry of your life, threads which, through the magnet of soul friendship, will appear ever and again, woven with increasing beauty as our hearts expand together in God's love. Divine Mother, receive this thy child. Purify him in thy perfect light and love. Grant him eternal freedom in thee. Om. Amen.
We'll need some rose petals just for this part of the ceremony. Thank you. So we're going to read, let's see, I'll read Master's poem from Whispers, Thou and I Are One, and while I'm doing that you can offer rose petals, okay? Yep. Thy cosmic life and I are one. Thou art the ocean and I am the wave, we are one. Thou art the flame, and I am the spark, we are one. Thou art the flower, and I am the fragrance, we are one. Thou art the Father, and I am thy child, we are one. Thou art the beloved, and I am the lover, we are one. Thou art the lover, and I am the beloved, we are one. Thou art the song, and I am the music, we are one. Thou art the spirit, and I am all nature, we are one. Thou art my friend, I am thy friend, we are one. Thou art the master, I am thy servant, we are one. Thou art my mother, I am thy son, we are one. Thou art my master, I am thy disciple, we are one. Thou art the ocean, I am the drop, we are one. Thou art all laughter, I am a smile, we are one. Thou art the light, I am the atom, we are one. Thou art consciousness, I am the thought, we are one. Thou art eternal power, and I am strength, we are one. Thy peace and I are one. Thy joy and I are one. Thy wisdom and I are one. Thy love and I are one. That is why thou and I are one. Thou and I were one, and thou and I will be one evermore. Maybe we could have a song.
We'll close with a prayer, and then if you feel to, you can come up and offer a few rose petals. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda Ji, we humbly bow to you all. O Divine Mother, bless us with thy love, as you have blessed Swamiji, as a channel of thy love. And help us also. Be a channel of thy light and love. To everyone we meet. Om. Peace. Amen. Yeah, do you want to?